little different. Today, Natasha Denona, I need a nude palette. I knew by the time this went up that it'd be like a million different videos. So I asked you on Instagram what you really wanted to see because I didn't want to replicate everything that everyone already has done. It's just, there's no point. But I also wanted to give you my idea of the palette and comparisons and all those good things. So I've broken it up into looks and comparisons and then my thoughts. So let's first talk about just the palette. Like, what does it look like? This is the palette. And like I said, I'll have comparisons to Glam and to Ethereal and some others. But what I would say is that when I opened it, it was cooler leaning than I thought it was going to be. I was like, huh, that's interesting. I was thinking it was more like tan / like neutral, kind of like the Chantecaille matte shades that came out recently, or the Glam matte shades, which it's the Wild Nudes. The other one, Undressed Brown, was actually more orange, but I thought more like neutral, tan. These are cooler, but they're not, I don't think they're pink. It's just there's a cooler tone to these than I thought there might have been, which is not really a huge shock because it doesn't say browns. It says I need a nude. So, you know, nude could be a wide spectrum of shades. So yeah, it's a little cooler, a little pinker than I had thought by the pictures. So at the end, I'll go into my thoughts about the palette itself and the different shades, and I'll talk about what each color is described at. That's the last part. But first I want to do the look. So I did 3 different looks. This is the first one that I have on now. And this one is the most dramatic of the looks that I did, and I decided to do this one last to keep it on. And this is more like the Metal Lust Tom Ford look. I was wondering if I could get something like that out of this, and you absolutely can. You can see you have that kind of metal liquid look. And the way I achieved this is I started with, hopefully a little box will go up. Started with Silhouette in the transition, Delilah on the eye. I used filigree to sort of deepen it a little bit, and Mia all over the top of the eye, of the eyelid. So I used metallic, shiny, shimmery shades. The only one in there that is matte is the Silhouette. So, you know, you're gonna have more of that shiny, shimmery look for this one. The second look was the lightest look that I did. And this one is fair all over the lid, vague in the transition, Mia in the inner corner. And Mia is a very like pinkish, but I used only a little bit in the inner corner of it. And Sheen I took and pressed it all over the eye. So this is the lightest, probably would say like the most date-friendly look. And then the second look, I was trying to go with something a little bit warmer, a little less cool. So I took Mesh, which is definitely mushroom, but then I took Tender, which has more of that, has a little bit more like brown. They're both cool, but you know. So I took Mesh in the transition, Tender to deepen. I took Whisper and put it on the eye. And then I took the Silhouette on the outer corner, and then I took Muse and put it on the eyelid itself. And Muse has a little bit more of that warmth to it, a little bit more of that gold to kind of make it a little bit more neutral instead of cool leaning. So what I would say is I do think the 3 looks are different. I do think you can get different looks with this. I don't think that if you use this palette every single time you're going to get the same look. I think you can get very different looks with it. Especially if, you know, you're using, if you will, like this shade here, which is fair, and keeping it like with mattes. If you just use the mattes, you could definitely get a very different look than if you're going to use something like the shimmers and this deep brown, the Silhouette. So yes, I think there's enough in here that you can get a very different look. The 3 looks that I did, I tried to make them look different from one another. I don't think it's the same look all over each time. I think the shimmers, there's different formulas, and I'll talk about that at the end, but I do think there's some similarities, like the stone and the mesh look kind of similar. You know, they're not that different. The Vague and the Wit have like, you know, they have similar undertones, but that's not a surprise because this is a, you know, correlation of shades that need to work together. So yes, I think these are more cool toned neutrals. I don't really see them as warm. The Sheen and the Muse can push it a little bit more towards neutral, but I do get a cooler tone out of this. However, when you look at it against the swatches, which you'll see in a minute, you'll see that although, you know, definitely cooler toned, if you look at it next to Glam, for example, which I'm going to put up right now, Glam is much grayer, in my opinion, and cooler than this one. So in comparison, Glam is a much cooler palette. Now, if you look at the Ethereal Eyes, which I have next, I think that one is more neutral than this one. I think if you look at the Ethereal Eyes, there are shades in there that definitely lean warmer. So the beige shade in there and the tan shade in there and that second shimmer shade, those are like more neutral, warm leaning shades. So I think that that one can go both cool and warm. I think they're similar. I don't think they're that different looking, but I do think that the Ethereal Eyes has a little bit more warmth to it than this one does. And then if you look at it against Stora Dolls, I think, you know, Stora Dolls actually, I think you could create almost the exact same look, pretty close to Stora Dolls. I think it's pretty close because you have that silvery gray. If you took Silhouette and maybe Travertine and then the Delilah, I think you'd get a very similar. Look. And so, you know, I don't think that this one is so very different than a lot of palettes that are out there, and I can start going through my, you know, other palettes to see what it also compares to. I think there's probably a lot, but again, this goes back to my comment before that I made in, you know, several videos about all the neutrals coming out. This is a popular trend, and it's always been a popular trend. It's not like now is the only time we've ever come out with neutrals. Neutrals have always been popular. But, you know, it's obviously very popular, right? I mean, everybody reviewed it. Everybody picked it up. I'm going to look at it on Sephora right now, and let's see if it's even in stock. It's out of stock on Sephora online. So, I mean, the analytics tell us, the data tells us that this is obviously what people want. It's just that simple. So do I think it's like a show-stopping, absolutely, you know, never seen before kind of thing? No, I don't. I think the formulas have been, I've seen things like this in Tom Ford, like Metallic Lust. I've seen things in the Yves Saint Laurent palettes like Stora Dolls. I've seen things that the ones in the Chanel, and someone mentioned that to me, and I will have swatches up when I can. It's the Chanel, the new ones, the Chanel Baroques, they're very different. They are shifting sort of opalescent shades. It has a very different look than these. These are more glossy and sparkling. And in that vein, this palette contains brand new wet formulas in two glistening finishes, glossy and sparkling. So the finishes are different. There are still the mattes and the metallics, but you have the glossy and the sparkling. And I'll go through the descriptions of each shade. So it does say in the description, a must-have cool toned palette with 15 nude shades in iconic matte, metallic, sparkling foiled, and brand new wet effect formula. So I just want to say, it does, even in the description, describe it as cool toned. So anybody who was looking for something that was truly neutral, I don't think that's what you're gonna get. I think you could go a little bit more neutral like I did, but I think this is a cool toned palette. Compared to Glam, Glam is more gray and, you know, has more of that deeper, some of those deeper shades, and even the Ethereal palette has like a grayer shade in it. But this is a cooler toned palette. All right, so let's go through the description of the shades. And I'm gonna start here, go like this. So Stone is a matte, light, medium, warm taupe. So that's Stone. Okay, so we're gonna go like this, just so everybody knows. And then the top. Whisper is a metallic, light nude pink. Ella is a sparkling, foiled, warm brown. No, I'm sorry, fawn. Vague is a matte, medium, warm, dusty rose. Yep. And then Travertine is a metallic, soft amber. Next row is Delilah, sparkling, wet effect, silver brown. That's one of the new formulas. Silhouette, which is the matte coffee bean brown. It does have a little bit more coolness to it. They all do, but I mean, it has that like almost blackish underneath of it. Muse, which is a sparkling foiled champagne. That's the one that has a little bit more warmth. Fair, which is a matte, light, misty rose. And then Filigree, which is a sparkling foiled medium neutral brown. And then this row, we have Wit, which is a matte, light, warm rose. Sheen, which is a glossy, wet effect, warm champagne. Like I said, that has a little bit more warmth to it. Tender, which is a medium, matte medium taupe. Mesh, which is a matte, light, dusty rose. And Mia, which is a sparkling, wet effect, icy pink. So again, this is a cool toned palette. This is, how much was it? $69. I was able to get it with a friends and family code thanks to one of my friends. So I got it for 20% off, which I think is a really great price. I like the Natasha I Need a Nude collection. I have the liners, I have some lipsticks. I'm actually wearing the My Dream Cheek products. I really like this palette. I think it's very pretty. I think the products look beautiful on, and I have nothing bad to say. Natasha Denona, especially when she does these midi palettes, I usually like them because it's a good size. I personally like having like, you know, different options to choose from. I like having 15 shades. They're smaller, so I can, you know, the palette's not too big. I can still hold it. I like being able to take them out. I think the way that they designed the cover is clever. I think it's cute. It's kind of like multi-dimensional there. But again, it's a really nice palette. It's a really good, cool toned nude palette. And I'm not trying to like dissuade you guys from getting it. I'm just saying this is for somebody who wants a cool toned neutral palette, nude palette. I should say neutral because it's cool toned. And if you use that all the time, this is good. The product is really good. It's very pretty. The wet, sparkling, and glossy finishes, I think they're very pretty. They do have that more metallic, wet look, which, like I said, we've talked about. It was in Tom Ford. There's some in the Yves Saint Laurent's. Beautiful. Nothing, nothing bad to say at all. This is a great everyday part of your basic collection. You would use it. I would use it all the time. So it's a good choice. Do you need it? Always comes down to, are you going to use it? If you're going to use something like this and you like a cool tone palette and you want something with different choices, perfect. If it's going to overwhelm you, some people, and I have many friends who are like this, if they see them more than 4 shades, they won't use it. Like they need, just having 1 or 2 shades that they're going to use. And that's fine too. So you have to, don't fall into the hype of buying something just because other people are buying it or everyone says it's great. It is. It's great. It's a really good formula. It's a good price point for 15 shades. All great. But, is it totally different than anything you've ever had? No. It's a cool tone palette, and there are many shades that are similar into these other palettes. Do I have a palette that's exactly like this? No, not that I can think of, that has all of these shades that are cool tone like this. Nope. I think it's a really good addition to the things that I have. And honestly, I will use this palette because like this shade here, this look here that I have going on, like this is the sort of Metal Lust look. The second shade that I did is sort of an everyday look, which I would probably get from using something like maybe Chantecaille Giraffe from before, or maybe some, you know, mattes from the new Chantecaille or the Guerlain Wild Nude, or I do have the Dior Fall Collection. I'll put up for you guys soon. There's, you know, a beige-ish palette in there. So like it's all in one, which is nice because you could just pack this, put it in your bag, go on a trip, you got everything, and you can go from a very basic, simple look to a more glamorous look. I do think it gives you that option because I think if you're somebody who's just looking for something that you could do, like you're going on vacation and you want something that you could wear to a water park, I don't know, whatever you're gonna do, you could literally take this shade, put it all over your eye, or like this shade here, and just be like, okay, I'm done. I feel like I've done something. I feel better. Some people are like that. They're like, I need something, a little bit of something, and then they're gonna go out at night and they want to be able to dress it up. You could absolutely do that with this. So I think it's great. I have nothing bad to say. I find these videos a little harder to do because what I don't want to do is like get everybody like they must have it because I don't think it's limited edition. I'm looking. I don't know. Maybe it is, but it doesn't say it's limited edition. So it's new, obviously, and you know, new is great, but you probably have a lot of these shades. The Wet Effect formula, yeah, it's great. I do like that, but there are other, you might already have Wet Effect formulas. It's mineral oil free, paraben free, cruelty free, made in Italy. That's all good. I mean, again, these are all good things. Nothing bad to say. And I do really like the collection. I like the I Need a Nude collection by Natasha Denona. So would I pick this up if I didn't have this channel? Yes, I would. Because I'd have a lot less makeup. And this is the kind of thing that I would use probably more often, like every day for work, to be very honest. My job is not a job where I can really wear even the Chanel Baroque palettes, although I'm loving them. I wouldn't probably wear any of them to work, to be honest. Like I love them and I would wear them out, or I'd wear them at functions or dinners or just like for me, but I probably wouldn't wear them to the office. And let's be honest, most of us, not all of us, but most of us are in, I shouldn't even say most of us, many of us are in an office setting at like a lot during the week. So, you know, if you are, something like this is great. Also, if you're somebody who's just more of, you know, I don't wear a lot of shades, I don't wear a lot of makeup. In fact, Merit Beauty was recently, they did this campaign because they've got new single eye shades, and they were talking about how they stopped using eyeshadow because there was sort of this overabundance of huge palettes. I'm sure you guys remember these enormous palettes not that long ago. You know, it was like 100 shades and people got overwhelmed by it. Like it was just like, we went from having like 2 shades in a CoverGirl palette to having like 100 shades, and people were like, I don't know what to do with this. So we've sort of come back from that now towards a more minimalist kind of, it always happens, you know, ebb and flow. So I think that this is a nice compromise between those two things. It's not 2 shades. It's 15 shades, but they're smaller and they're neutral, cool leaning. So most people will feel comfortable with them and they can use them. So, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense. And obviously it makes a lot of sense because it's sold out on Sephora in like a couple of days. So I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions, I will definitely put up, you know, more swatches on Instagram, and I'm happy to answer questions and all of that. But I felt like this was a good way to address, you know, some of the things that you had asked for, and plus you've already seen so much of it. I didn't want to spend, you know, 2 hours going on about something that you've already read about. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in another video really soon. Bye.